Bitcoin didn't invent decentralized money. A tiny island in the Pacific did it centuries ago. Their currency, giant stone wheels. Not just large, but enormous. Some stood taller than a person. Others were so wide they couldn't fit through a doorway. These weren't ceremonial items. They were real monetary units. And despite their immovability, people treated them as fully functioning currency, so massive you couldn't even move them. There were no pockets big enough, no carts strong enough, and yet everyone knew exactly who owned what. Ownership wasn't private, it was public knowledge. One of these stones even sank to the bottom of the ocean during transport. And yet the villagers still agreed it had value. And it still had value. Sounds insane, right? But this ancient money system actually worked. It functioned without banks, without digital screens, and without printed bills. It was powered purely by shared belief and collective memory. No government needed, no servers required, no hardware wallets, no multi-factor authentication, no coins changed hands, no one logged into an app. Yet somehow, the economic engine of Yap kept turning. People exchanged goods and services based purely on mutual recognition of ownership, proof not stored in vaults or code, but in stories, customs, and community recall. This wasn't just a primitive workaround. It was a fully functioning trust-based economic system long before terms like decentralized finance existed. And the craziest part, it mirrors Bitcoin almost perfectly. Bitcoin is often praised as the most radical innovation in money since gold coins. But what if that innovation wasn't so new after all? In fact, the foundation of Bitcoin, scarcity, decentralization, and a public ledger can be found in the traditions of the island of Yap. Thousands of years before blockchain became a buzzword, these islanders were practicing the same economic philosophy, just in a different form. What if the true birth of decentralized finance didn't begin in a white paper, but in the Pacific Ocean carved in stone? In a world obsessed with modern technology and digital ledgers, the story of a tiny island using rocks the size of refrigerators might just hold the key to understanding the future of money. And maybe what makes money powerful, well, is much older than we think. Maybe it's not about innovation. Maybe it's about human agreement. Maybe money isn't made powerful by its tech, but by the shared stories we tell about it. Section 1, Raw Stones, the money you couldn't steal. On the island of Yap, in a part of the Pacific Ocean called Micronesia, people used giant stone discs called rye stones as money. Some were small, like dinner plates. Others were huge, as big as a car. These stones weren't made from local rock. They were carved from limestone found on the island of Palau, hundreds of miles away. To bring them to Yap, islanders embarked on treacherous sea journeys using simple boats and paddles. Transporting even a single stone took weeks or months. Many were lost along the way, swallowed by storms or heavy waves. Because of this, every stone that reached Yap was special. Its history was known, where it came from, who transported it, how it got there. Each stone had a story, and that story gave it value. They were way too heavy to carry or steal. So how did people pay with them? They didn't actually move the stones at all. Instead, everyone in the village kept track of who owned which stone by memory. If I gave you my stone, I would say it out loud in front of everyone. And from then on, people just knew it belonged to you. There was no receipt, no physical handoff. The value wasn't in the stone. It was in the shared agreement. It was like using Venmo or PayPal, except the record of ownership wasn't on a phone screen. It was in the minds of the whole community. In a way, the people acted like a living version of a blockchain. Each transaction witnessed, remembered, and trusted. If you think about it, they had figured out consensus algorithms without knowing the word algorithm. Bitcoin Basic. Bitcoin is a kind of digital money that doesn't need a bank or a middleman. Instead of coins or bills, it exists only online. People will send it from one wallet to another. And Every transaction is recorded on a public list called the blockchain. The blockchain is shared with thousands of computers all over the world. No single person controls it, and it can't be easily changed. Just like with Ray Stones, what gives Bitcoin value is trust, scarcity, and the effort it takes to mine or create it. It's decentralized, secure, and built on code. But at its core, Bitcoin still relies on a very old idea, shared belief. If people stop believing in Bitcoin, its value collapses just like Rye Stones. Now let's get back to Yap and the surprising ways Rye Stones and Bitcoin are alike. Section 2, the public ledger. Before Bitcoin, here's the wildest part. Even when a Rye Stone sank to the bottom of the ocean during transport, the villagers still counted it as currency because everyone agreed it was there. There was no need to physically touch it. Ownership was not about possession, but about public consensus. The stone was invisible, unreachable, right? But still had value. Sound familiar? That's literally Bitcoin. There's a currency that exists nowhere physically, just data on a ledger that we agree is worth something. That belief, that consensus, is what keeps the entire system alive. Without consensus, Rye Stones would have just been rocks. And without consensus, Bitcoin is just code on servers. Section 3, mining, scarcity, and belief. The stones were carved on another island, Palau, and getting them back to Yap was dangerous and difficult. Some stones were lost in storms, others never made it across. That effort, risk, and labor was what gave them value. Not the limestone itself, but the story behind it. Like Bitcoin, which becomes harder to mine over time. Rye stones weren't valuable because of their material, but because of their scarcity and the proof of work it took to get them. You couldn't fake a Rye stone. You couldn't mass produce them, and you certainly couldn't steal one without everyone knowing. People believed in Rye Stones for the same reason people believe in Bitcoin, not because of what it is, but because of what it represents. Effort, consensus, trust, all backed by the memory of a community, or the code of a decentralized network. In both cases, belief is everything. Lose belief and the whole system unravels. Section 4, how it died. So what killed this ancient Bitcoin? Colonialism. Western powers came in and didn't understand the system. They saw a bunch of rocks and oral traditions and dismissed them as primitive. Instead, they introduced fiat currency and centralized systems. Slowly, belief in Rye stones faded, the oral ledger broke, and with it, the entire system collapsed. The stones still exist. You can see them in museums and the jungle by the roadside, but their power as money is gone. They became relics of a forgotten financial system, one that ironically was more advanced than it appeared. A warning shot for anyone who thinks value is permanent or that technology always wins. But here's the crazy part. The idea behind Rye stones never really died. Decentralized trust, public consensus, limited supply, belief as value, all of that lives on in Bitcoin. So maybe the future of money isn't just digital. Maybe it's deeply human. Maybe the real innovation was remembering who owned what and agreeing it mattered. Maybe money doesn't come from what we hold, but from what we honor. Maybe the future of money is actually a very old idea. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more mind-bending money stories. See you in the next one.